Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I do at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, where we do deep dives into all aspects of the culture war on both sides of the political aisle, because I'm not on the left, I'm not on the right. I think that everyone is insane. And so we may as well get our entertainment where we can, looking at things from a detached perspective and exposing the world to the actual insanity that is going on. Because, guys, there is a lot of insanity that's going on. There is so much insanity going on today. I might even go live again later tonight for a late night stream where we can talk about additional insanity. But I do want to welcome everyone to the channel. I especially want to welcome some of the newer members of my channel. I've had a lot of interest in the channel in the last couple of days because of the stuff surrounding the Socialism Conference. I'm really excited about all of the interest because, for those of you who don't know, we have actually been watching Real Socialism at least once a week, sometimes more, every single week on my channel for 7 straight months. And so this is something we do very regularly, and it just so happens that I happened to go to a Real Socialist conference in person this past weekend. I didn't really expect everyone to be really interested in this, but I'm so glad that you are, because if you think that what you see on Libs of TikTok or like on Tucker Carlson or in the clips that you see on Twitter is insane, I promise you that real socialists are on a completely different level. And that's not the stuff that you're going to see from your regular conservative influencers, because they aren't paying attention to it. But we are, because I'm obsessed with dystopia. And if there's anything that's dystopia in this world, it's the real socialist. So stick around for a while and settle in, and I will show you things that you never knew existed. And so I really want to give a very special welcome to people who are relatively new on the channel. I think I saw someone in the chat. I'm just looking for it. Here we go. Aggie Mara, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you guys being here. Guys, please mount that like button if you would be so kind. Nick says, hello from Southern Arizona. Do you turn on the comments section? Yeah, I mean, the comments on the channel are open. I do keep the chat to be to subscribers only. And I will say, for people who are new, I have 2 rules in my chat. I do not have an unmoderated chat because we deal with dark, heavy content on this channel. And so because we're dealing with dark, heavy content, I like to try to keep the environment nice for everyone here. Now, I know on a lot of channels on YouTube, you can shit post in the chat and spam the chat and do that sort of stuff. You are not welcome to do that here, okay? There are 2 rules in my chat. Number 1, don't be a dick. What that means is you do not insult me. You do not insult other people in the chat. I don't care if you insult people that we're talking about. That makes no difference to me. But you know, you will not come at me. You will not come at other people in the chat. And the reason that I have that rule is because I know from people in my chat that they can't actually participate in other chats on YouTube because of all the shit posting. So we just take it down a notch. Just chill. Just relax. You can still shit post. You just can't do it here. Number 2, no whining. I just turned 42 years old last week. I don't have children for a reason. I can only take so much whining in my life, and all of it, unfortunately, the quota is already met by conservatives on Twitter every single day. So if I ask you to stop doing something, just stop doing it. Don't argue with me, don't complain, don't fight, because I promise I'm going to win that battle, and you're not going to be in my chat long if you do that. So that's it. Don't be a dick, no whining, and we're going to get along just fine. And Quick Quaid says, "New, I dig your style. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it." Well, guys, there's a lot to cover today. And let me just give you a little preview of what we're going to be looking at. Of course, I want to encourage everyone off the top to make sure that you are subscribed to my main Substack, not to be confused with my other 87 Substacks, but my main Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. There are links in the description below on the video on whatever platform you're watching on. And we are on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, Getter, I think Facebook as well. So welcome if you are not on YouTube, but YouTube is the only chat that I see in my streaming tool. So that's the way it goes. Anyway, please make sure you are subscribed to this Substack. This is where I post all of my good stuff. This is where I break down the woke ideology. I've been studying it intensively every single day of my life for over 3.5 years. It's why I'm a little bit insane. And I break down the woke ideology. I do original journalism, like the stuff around the Socialist conference. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. I also curate news that is coming out of the Unwoke space that I think you guys need to know about. And my particular focus on this is practical application. I want to know how these people and the ideology actually show up in the real world so that you can be prepared for when you encounter it in real life. You know what you're dealing with. You know what the language means. You know what they're trying to do. You know what to do. You know what not to do. All that good stuff. So I am breaking down the woke ideology for you guys almost every single day on my main Substack, carlin.substack.com. Please subscribe for free at least. However, my main Substack is one of the ways I'm going to be funding my work moving forward. And so if you can financially support my work for $5 a month or for $50 a year, that would be really appreciated. Listen, if you're enjoying the socialist content, there is a much bigger socialist conference that I want to go to in a couple of months. And I'm not going to be able to do that without your support. And we're talking like, it's a big conference. It's several days long. All of the best socialists are going to be there. The Abolish the Family lady is going to be there. The head of the American Library Association is going to be there. All of the big socialist celebrities are going to be there. And I want to go. I want to go so badly, and I want to be able to go to their sessions and document it for you guys, just like I documented the socialist. Now, I might need to make some precautions with the other socialist conference because I've kind of outed myself now. But I really do want to go and listen to them and let you guys know what they're saying, and that's going to be a big expense. And one of the ways that you guys can help me out is by becoming a financial supporter on the Substack. Again, $5 a month, $50 a year. I promise you, the socialist content that I'm delivering you this week will be like the stuff that's going to come out of this other conference is going to be so much better. And we're going to be watching some of that stuff this weekend on Socialism Saturday. And so if you want a preview of the insanity of this next socialist conference, just drop by on Saturday at 6 p.m. We'll hang out and I'll show you what we're going to find. Thank you, Nick Incognita, Jenna Tyler for the win. I'm not sure what that means, Nick, but okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. And then Naruto, I DM'd you an article on Twitter. An IG account is using AI art to turn right-wing leaders into drag queens. Oh, that's hilarious. I didn't see that DM, Naruto, but I will definitely look into that. And I use AI art too to make political commentary. It's on Unwoke Art. You can find the link on my Substack. I think that's hilarious. I was actually trying to do, I probably shouldn't say this out loud. I was trying to create a drag queen Mount Rushmore the other day. It wasn't working out the way I wanted it to, but I'm still working on it. It's still a project. And so we'll see if I can get that done, because that will be absolutely hilarious. Rita says, Dr. K, can't we also donate for your trip, room, etc.? Well, I mean, signing up as a monthly supporter or an annual supporter on my Substack is one of the ways you're going to do that. I'm not planning on doing a direct crowdfunding project for it. I mean, I suppose I could, but you are also welcome to make one-time donations on my website, activelyunwoke.com/support. And you know what? Like, listen, guys, here's the reality. Did anyone else do their taxes, like, within the last 24 hours? I did. I was up till 2 a.m. last night doing my taxes. And in doing my taxes, one of the things that I realize is I have no life because all of the money I spend is on this stuff. I had because of course, like I have to do, like, this is my business, right? And so when you run a business, you can take business deductions on investments that you make in the business. And so I was making a list of all the ways I spend money on this. Like, basically every single cent that I generate, either from my Substack or the YouTube channels or any of my other platforms, it all gets reinvested back into doing this. I didn't realize how much of my own money, like, I spent on this until last night when I did my taxes, and I was like, oh, it's like this and knitting, and that's it. I spend no other money. I have no other life. So I really do appreciate that. No, I didn't deduct knitting because I don't have a knitting business, but I do have a YouTube business, so I'm going to deduct that stuff. It's always smart to take business deductions, especially the home office and depreciation on computers and stuff like that. Like, come on, you gotta take your shortcuts where you can. And I got audited this year because I was at January 6th, and they clearly and obviously targeted me with an audit. And so now that I have been through an audit and I beat them, I understood how to navigate the tax system a little bit better. So the audit sucked at the time, but it was a blessing in disguise, because now I know all your tricks, IRS, and I know what you're going to ask for if you ever audit me again. All right, guys, with that out of the way, let's dig in, and I'm just going to give you a little preview of the things that we're going to talk about today. Now, I have 3 main stories I want to go to. One is a story that I just published this morning or this afternoon, what have you. And someone said earlier that image was hard to look at. Well, that image was supposed to be hard to look at. That was the point. We are going to be continuing to talk about the Socialist conference today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the program. I'm going to show you the presentations, and I'm going to show you some of the bios of the presenters from the Socialist Reproductive Justice Conference, the Collective Power Conference at Hampshire College in Massachusetts. And I made this image, and it's titled "The Abortion Storytellers" because there was a member, there was a presenter at the conference that actually had in their presenter bio that they are an abortion storyteller. And I was like, well, all right, that's interesting. So the picture was meant to be hard to look at, and I'm glad that people are finding it hard to look at, because even me, I'm pro-choice. I am, and this is not going to change my mind about that for many reasons that I'm not going to go into now. I am actually pro-choice, but I actually am one of those crazy pro-choice people that I think abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. because they're going to happen anyway. And there are victims of assault in the world, and they should be given a choice as well. And so, but I don't like abortion. I don't think abortion is a happy thing. I don't believe in shouting your abortion. I certainly don't believe in labeling yourself as an abortion storyteller or doing a bathroom abortion with a self-managed pill, with an abortion doula and a shrine to your abortion. I don't believe in any of that. And so I wanted this image to be dark. I wanted it to be shocking, because I find this whole thing to be very shocking. So we're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about, guys, I want to introduce you to someone. This is my new socialist best friend, Heron. Heron and I had a couple of moments at the socialist conference on Saturday. I actually attended. Heron was one of the main keynote speakers. She was on the main keynote panel in the morning. And then Heron said so many crazy things on the main keynote panel in the morning that I actually decided to attend her breakout session. Oh, I'm sorry, not her. They. I really do try to respect the pronouns. I really do. Heron's pronouns are they, them. So I decided to respect, to go to their presentation, because they said so many crazy things in the morning. And I was not disappointed. And Heron has gotten a little upset on Twitter over the fact that I went to their conference and that I'm talking about it on the internet. And Heron posted a Twitter thread about me yesterday that just had some inaccuracies. And so I decided to write an open letter to my new socialist best friend, Heron Greenesmith. Heron is also a law professor at my alma mater, Boston University, which is a whole other, I have so many feelings about that, I can't even tell you. And so I thought I would read my open letter to Heron. Heron and I are going to be in each other's lives for at least a couple of weeks. I might even continue to follow Heron if they're really lucky, and we can be best friends. We have a lot in common. Heron and I both don't like conservative Christianity. We both hate Matt Walsh. We both find TERFs to be insufferable. I just don't know. There's no reason why Heron and I can't be best friends. And so I wrote an open letter to Heron, and I'm going to read it on the show. Then I'm going to give you the Gays Against Groomers update that I promised to give you yesterday, but sadly I ran out of time. As you guys know, I have been following Gays Against Groomers. I have spoken to over probably like I've spoken to a whole bunch of whistleblowers from Gays Against Groomers. I think like 7 or something. These are people who were volunteers with Gays Against Groomers, worked with them. Some were in senior leadership positions, and they're all telling me the organization is effed because of Jamie Mitchell's leadership style. And that doesn't surprise me at all, because when I first started reporting on how Gays Against Groomers is effed as an organization, Jamie threw a 3-day Twitter fit and started engaging in a smear campaign and a revenge campaign against me, proving, of course, that she is the most professional CEO in all of the anti-woke space. And so I did a whole bunch of stories about that a couple weeks ago. Well, there's been an update. 2 more people have left Gays Against Groomers, and it's actually a big deal. And I want to make sure that people know about it, because I think it's very important that we keep the organizations in the anti-woke space in check, because there are a lot of them that are taking a lot of money and a lot of resources and then not doing anything with it. And as the, resident industrial organizational psychologist in the space, I kind of view it as my job to tell you guys when organizations are, going down the toilet, so that you know where to invest resources and where not to invest resources, because we sadly live in a space where there are not that many people doing this. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. And if people are putting their money and their resources and their energy into organizations that, quite frankly, are just grifting, I just think that people need to know that. So I've got that little update there. However, there's a couple things I just want to do really quickly before we get started. This actually came up on my newsfeed. I mean, literally right before I went live. I don't know how many of you have been following the Dominion Fox News trial, but I was kind of interested in that. And listen, back in 2020, when all the conservative Twitter sphere and the QAnon sphere were all up in arms, they're like it's release the Kraken. Does anyone remember this? Does anyone remember the Sydney, what's her name? Sydney Powell, is that her name? She looks constipated. They were like, Sydney, release the Kraken, release the Kraken. They were telling Lynn Wood, release the Kraken. Everyone in the conservative Twitter sphere was losing their effing mind, saying that the Dominion voting systems was this massive Kraken that was going to be unleashed. And I was I remember I was sitting back looking at it. I was like, everyone has lost their goddamn minds. And one day on Twitter, I decided to speak up, and I tweeted, and this is all when conservatives still like loved me. And I tweeted, I was like, guys, I don't think there's a Kraken, because if there was in fact a Kraken, it already would have been released. Like, we wouldn't be dicking around and trying to create this big drama and intrigue over this entire situation. If they had a Kraken, they would have effing released the Kraken. And was the Kraken ever released? No. But there was a whole lot of whining and crying and complaining, like, like the whole typical conservative thing, like when you tell them something they don't want to hear. And it's like, I'm trying to help you guys. I understand that you've been lied to by your influencers. I understand that many of you are caught up in this QAnon bullshit. I really do get it, but this is not real. You have to hinge yourself back into reality. This is not real. Well, and by the way, that doesn't mean I don't think there were other problems, okay? That doesn't mean that. But this Dominion bullshit, it was nonsense from the start. It was always nonsense. There was no Kraken, and it was a distraction from things that were possibly, shall we say, a bit more grounded in reality. But I can't talk about those things because I don't want to get a strike on my channel. But let's just say I'm not convinced that everything was above board, but this was a distraction and this was nonsense. And this is, we need to be honest about this. So here's what happened. Dominion, because they're like, holy mother F, you idiots, they filed like what, a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against Fox News for like reporting on them. Well, they've come to a settlement. Let's read. Dominion versus Fox News trial ends in last minute $787 million settlement. Quick Quaid says, kind of like trust the plan. Trust the plan. I didn't get the memo of what the plan is. No one got the memo of what the plan was. People are still saying trust the plan today. Like, you got to move on with life, man. The highly anticipated trial in the defamation lawsuit brought by Dominion Voting Systems the highly anticipated trial in the defamation lawsuit brought by Dominion Voting Systems against Fox News began and ended Tuesday with a $787 million settlement between the two parties. After lengthy recess, Delaware Superior Court Judge Eric dismissed the jury and announced the issue was resolved prior to the opening arguments. Dominion has accused the conservative cable news giant of knowingly and repeatedly broadcasting guests and hosts baseless allegations after the 2020 presidential election that Dominion voting machines were rigged to help Joe Biden steal the elections from then President Donald Trump. Fox News argued that it was simply reporting on newsworthy voter fraud allegations that Trump and his allies were promoting in the wake of the election, and that the broadcast in question should be protected under the First Amendment. And so there's live news about that right now, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you know, when you don't hinge yourself into reality, there are consequences to that. And I really hope that people on the right consider this to be a lesson. Listen, man, I spent all weekend at a socialist conference, all right? I spend most of my time focusing on the craziness and the insanity on the left. However, that doesn't mean that there's not craziness and insanity on the right. They're their own cult just like anything else. QAnon is a cult. It is a cult. I also would argue that MAGA has become a cult. It's become a cult of personality. I don't think it was always like that. I mean, there were certainly times in 2020 where it was just fun to be around. It was a lively atmosphere. I think people were generally happier then. But after January 6th and after Joe Biden got into office, all of this stuff turned very, very cult-like. And I really want to impress upon people. I actually don't care which side of the aisle you're on. I don't care if you're on the left, right, center, if you're more of an anarchist like I am at this point. Like, it doesn't actually really matter to me what you believe. It does matter to me that you are grounded in reality. Derangement is a real thing. And if you allow your influencers to manipulate you and feed you bullshit information, because listen, man, I spent more time than I wanted to around many conservative influencers, and most of them are not the brightest crayons in the box. I'm just going to say it. What happens with these people is they get fed talking points by organizations or by their producers. They read the talking points, they do it in an entertaining way, they look nice on camera. The women have the push-up bras and all that good stuff. But they're not the brightest crayons in the box for the most part. There are some really smart ones, but most of them just are literally reading a script that's given to them by other people to read. And then people who follow these people and are convinced they're the greatest thing since sliced bread take these talking points as though they are the gospel truth, and they don't question any of it. You have got to be the person that hinges yourself into reality. That is why I don't listen to other influencers. I really don't. I don't watch anyone else. If it sounds like I'm repeating someone else's words, I promise you it's either a pure coincidence or maybe they're watching me, which happens all the time. They just don't want to admit it. They all read my stuff. They're all on my mailing list. They all follow me on Twitter. That's a true story. So, you've got to do your own homework and you've got to make your own decisions. And what I do try to do on this channel is I present you with receipts and I present you with my perspective. But at the end of the day, look at the primary source documents and decide for yourself. But do not listen to these influencers who are trying to sell you stuff, because this is what happens when you do. And then you make a big old hullabaloo over nothing and you say, release the Kraken, release the Kraken, release the Kraken for months on end, and it don't go nowhere. I just really hope people learn from this lesson. That's one thing I wanted to make sure you guys knew about. Another thing that I do want to talk about, but I'm not quite ready to talk about it yet, but I want to give you a preview that I am aware of this and we are going to talk about it. Is anyone in the chat following the chaos with Ali Alexander and Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos? And apparently Ali Alexander has, Ali Alexander, who I always said was a grifter and someone that you should never ever trust at all. Ali Alexander has gotten himself into some trouble. If you don't know who Ali Alexander is, you're lucky. I had to encounter Ali. I was around Ali Alexander in the wake of the 2020 election because Walkaway was working with Stop the Steal, and I wanted nothing to do with it. For those who don't know, I toured with the Walkaway campaign for like 6 months in 2020. I wanted nothing to do with this asshole from the very beginning. I never had anything to do with Stop the Steal. I hated Ali Alexander on sight. I always thought he was a grifter and a shill and just really bad news. He has really grimy energy. I've sadly had to be around him in person on several occasions. I did not enjoy any of it. And I've always been warning people, this guy's bad news. He's bad news. He's bad news from day one. Well, Stop the Steal organizer apologizes after being accused of asking teen boys for dick pics. And we're not talking one or two. We're talking like 24, several 24 that are being reported on this Twitter, the Ali Files Twitter account. And Nick Fuentes is involved in this as well, and they're all having fits about it. And I was looking at their telegrams last night. I hate spending time on Telegram. It is like the bowels of the internet. It is so awful. But I took one for the team. I was spending some time on Telegram last night, looking at Ali Alexander's Telegram, looking at Nick Fuentes' Telegram, Milo Yiannopoulos' Telegram. By the way, our girl Marjorie is also in on this. Marjorie tweeted out the article from the Daily Beast and said, this is a disgusting textbook predation of underage boys, and Nick Fuentes was in on it. Remember, Marjorie spoke at Nick Fuentes' events against all rational judgment. And she said, in exchange for recanting his accusation, Nick Fuentes and Ali Alexander offered to get him a job in politics, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has called for the FBI to investigate Ali Alexander. And I'm going to say this too. Now, I don't think that Ali Alexander actually did anything wrong on January 6th. The reality is, and I might get in trouble for that, but I've expressed my profound dislike for Ali Alexander. But on January 6th, he had a planned, permitted rally. He had a permit to hold a rally at the Capitol. And then we all know what that devolved into, and we don't need to get into that right now. But I actually don't think he did anything wrong. However, there were a lot of people who didn't do anything wrong on January 6th. A lot of people. How is it that Ali Alexander got off scot-free, not a single charge against him? I think Ali Alexander's a Fed. I'm going to say it. Well, I've said it before. This isn't the first time I've said it. That I know people who were wrongfully charged with serious crimes who did nothing wrong on January 6th. They were not insurrectionists. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They did something maybe that was stupid, but actually wasn't illegal, and they got charged with serious federal crimes out of it. How in the ever-loving F did Ali Alexander plan the rally on January 6th, was there with his megaphone the whole time, and got zero charges? There was zero nonsense. Like, he even fled. Do you guys remember this? He fled Washington, D.C., like, under the cover of night in a dark van that night that, like, all the shit went down. Ali Alexander literally fled in the back of a van. How in the world did nothing? He was not mentioned once in the January 6th hearing. You're going to tell me that that's just a coincidence? No, I think Ali Alexander's a Fed. I'm going to say it right now. I think he's a Fed. I think he made some sort of deal. I think there's some sort of nonsense going on with him that we don't know about yet. And I really hope it comes out someday, because this guy's an asshole and he deserves everything that's coming to him. And anyway, I wanted to tell you guys about this because I want you to know that I am aware of it and I'm looking into it. I'm not ready to talk about it yet because I just haven't had time to look into it, but this is absolutely something we're going to cover. We may even watch Nick Fuentes' show, because he did a show last night. I'm thinking about doing a stream later where we watch some Nick Fuentes. We haven't watched Nick Fuentes on this channel in a while. Watching Nick Fuentes on this channel is fun because what happens when we watch Nick Fuentes live is all of the groypers come into the chat and you can see them in all of their anti-Semitic racist glory. So you can see that they are actually really anti-Semitic and really racist. Like, I mean, like real racism, not fake made up racism, like real, the groyper culture has gotten really, really bad and really, really dark. And sometimes I like to show that to people because people think that's not real. They think because the left makes up like fake accusations of racism all the time, they think that all accusations of racism are false. No. Groypers are bad. Nick Fuentes' culture is bad. Nick Fuentes is a racist and an anti-Semite, and you will never convince me differently. And so we may have a little Nick Fuentes watch party later to just to balance out the socialism. We've been spending some time with the socialists on the far left. We should balance it out with the far right. You know, we gotta have a little taste from both sides. And so that might be coming later. It might be coming tomorrow. I haven't decided yet. It really depends on how much time I have to do stuff. Brian said, no, but did you see the UN is supporting the decriminalization? Oh, are they really? Are they really? Well, that's interesting, Brian, because that's actually another story that I'm going to be covering. And I'm going to be covering this on the Substack and probably in an episode this week. The state of Washington is now allowing kids to medically transition without their parents knowing. Oh, fun times. And now they're criminalizing the word I'm not going to say on the internet, but you can see on the screen. Oh, isn't that great? Isn't that glorious? That'll be another thing that we dig into this week. Jen says, I think Ali Alexander, based on his chin, like if you find a side profile of his head, looks like he has to inbreeding in his family. Yes, he does look like he has the Habsburg chin. Ali Alexander has a very pronounced Habsburg like chin underbite, which is a sign of inbreeding. It is. Like, you can look it up. It's like the royal families of Europe all have this. I shouldn't be laughing, but that's what it looks like. Yes, it does. And if you've ever seen him in person, that's exactly what it looks like. I'm just going to say that. All right, guys, please mount that like button if you would be so kind. And remember, on Tuesdays, this is not my last stream of the day. This is about the first stream of the day. And I will be going live in about what is it? 4 hours time at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight. I do a weekly show with my friend Joshua the Psychic, and it's a fun show. You don't have to believe in psychics, but we have a good time. And what we do is we talk about news and what's going on in the world, and then Joshua uses his psychic powers to help us predict what's going to happen. And I'm going to be honest, Joshua has a freakishly high accuracy rate. Joshua predicted live on the show. He predicted January 6th on January 5th on our show. Last week, Joshua predicted the whole, the Cash App murder. The CEO of Cash App got murdered. And Joshua predicted that, no, this was totally a planned thing. And it was like emphatic live on the show. He's predicted a lot of stuff about Trump. He's predicted stuff about elections. He can even predict if your sports team is going to win the game or not. And so come and hang out with us. It's a really fun show. We do them at 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. If you don't like psychics, you don't like tarot cards, you think it's tools of the devil, you don't have to come, all right? But I don't want to hear any religious nonsense. This is our way to blow off steam. We have fun doing it. And you know what? You can come and skeptic watch as well. I promise we're going to suck you right in. It'll be great. Brian sent you a PDF on Discord. Thank you, Brian. I will take a look at that when I have a chance. All right, guys, let's dig into it. The first thing we're going to look at today is my newest article in the series of My Day with the Socialist. We are going to be looking at, well, first I'm going to tell you what it was like when I got to Hampshire College for the Collective Power Conference. And then I just want to take you through a quick tour of some of the session presentation titles from the conference. So let's dig in. And I have titled this The Abortion Storytellers because there is a presenter at this conference who literally has in their bio that they are an abortion storyteller. So I'm just using their own language to classify them. I think it's totally above board. I may have, juxtaposed it with a really shocking picture for extra drama, but I'm just using their own language. Let's read. Why go to a socialist reproductive justice conference? Because for the last 7 months on my main YouTube channel, we have gathered every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time to watch real socialism in action. It's called Socialism Saturday. We watch the farthest of the far left, the real deal, self-identified Marxists, socialists, and communists talk about how they view the world. I have spent hundreds of hours watching people like this from afar. I wanted to be able to experience it in person. It's exactly like when I went to the Trump rally as a Democrat, but in reverse. Except the event did not convince me to leave the libertarians and to become a socialist. I'm still firmly in the camp of the anarcho-capitalists. In fact, I had the idea to go to the Socialist Conference live on an episode of Socialism Saturday, and I'm such a stealthy undercover journalist that I can literally announce what I'm doing and where I'm going live on the internet, and the targets of my reporting still have no idea what's happening. And we're not going to watch the clip now, but I did post the clip on the channel earlier today, so if you actually want to see the moment from the last episode of Socialism Saturday where I had the grand epiphany to go to the Socialist Conference, you can see that on the channel right now. When I arrived at Hampshire College in Western Massachusetts on Saturday morning, I encountered a group of at least 24 women, young women, I should say, arriving for the event, like a field trip or a group activity. Many of them were wearing Collective Power shirts and carrying Collective Power bags. I later learned that these were all interns with the organization, a robust funnel to recruit and train future social justice warriors. I really want to emphasize this. Conferences like this are designed to get the newly indoctrinated college students into the funnel where they become professional activists. The right doesn't have anything like this. What they have is Turning Point USA, who occasionally throws a party. But they don't have what the left has. The left has an actual concerted effort to take the children, these students, young adults, what have you, from college and put them into a recruiting funnel to get them into the activist organizations. And the conference program says as much. They are very focused on recruiting young people on college campuses and getting them into the pipeline to work in activist organizations. And you can see here the Collective Power for Reproductive Justice has been engaging young people in reproductive health, rights, and justice activism since 1981. They've been doing this a long time. Jen says, I can't believe you had to sit there, not laugh as you went through abortion Jewish storytelling. Well, I didn't go to the abortion storytelling session. And there are, I think, 2 abortion storytelling sessions. So a lot of the sessions at the conference, they were breakout sessions. So there were a lot of them happening at the same time. You could only pick 2, and there were actually abortion storytelling sessions, but I didn't go because I went to other sessions. I wish I had gone to all of them. I mean, there were so many sessions that I wanted to go to. But I did not actually go to the abortion storytelling ones. Thank you for the super chat, Jen. I appreciate it. When I registered for the conference, I had to upload proof of vaccination. When I checked in, I was allowed to pick up a COVID test, but they didn't require I report the results to them. It was more of an honor system, which I actually thought was kind of considerate. I knew I didn't have COVID, and so I declined. All attendees were required to wear a mask, which actually worked to my benefit in this particular case. There were also helpful baskets of supplies right next to registration. They had every type of condom you could want. They even had dental dams. We were at Hampshire College after all, and they even provided free lube. So this was literally right next to the registration table. You've got all sorts of condoms. You've got lube right here. You've got unlubricated condoms, latex condoms, like non-latex condoms, other types of condoms, flavored condoms, ribbed condoms. They had a whole bowl of dental dams. They had like all of the, if you wanted to get busy at this conference, you had all the tools you needed to do it. Sadly, there were no men. Well, there were very few men there. And if they were there, they were obviously gay. So, you know, it was what it was, but you could take some home with you just in case. It's always nice to have extra. We had to make our own name tag. I used my initials, KB, not to hide my identity, but because I find it's easier for people to pronounce and will often use it at events when I don't feel like explaining how to say my name. I also had to write my pronouns on my badge. I selected she, her, but I had to announce my pronouns several times throughout the day, and I kept changing it up for fun. Sometimes I was they, she, sometimes I was she, they. You get the idea. And so you can see my name badge right here. Sadly, I didn't take a picture of it while it was still nice, and then I got caught in the rain, and so it's looking a little haggard now, but you guys get the idea. But the reason I wanted to actually show you this is look what it says on the back of the badge. It says for private rooms for chest feeding are available. So if you brought a young one to the abortion conference and you needed a room to chest feed that baby, you could ask for a private room to chest feed. We were also allowed to select a sticker to place on our name tag to let people know whether or not we felt like talking to and meeting new people. We were also allowed to change our sticker throughout the day as the mood changed it. And this is actually not the first conference I've seen this at. The first time I ever saw this was, I think, back in 2019 when I was still a Democrat, and it was at this conference that I went to for like 11 years in a row, and all of a sudden they started springing up with all this social justice bullshit at the conference. And one of the things they sprung up with was this sticker system where if you wanted to talk to people, you're supposed to put a green sticker on your badge. If you only want to talk to some people, you're supposed to put a yellow sticker. And if you don't want anyone to talk to you at the conference, you're supposed to put a red sticker on the badge. I always thought this was stupid. You want to know why? Because I'm an adult and I don't need to express my feelings via a sticker on my name badge. I think that's juvenile and stupid. And so I refused to do the sticker thing back then, even when I was still a Democrat and I was around all my friends, and my friends were actually the ones that came up with the sticker plan. And this, so I've seen the sticker thing before. I think it's lazy. I think it's juvenile. I think it infantilizes people. And I think it incentivizes people to not act like, you know, adults. But that's just me. They also had a note about it in the conference program. You can read that if you want. I also couldn't help but notice the permanent signs for the bathrooms in the building were for self-identified men and women. And it was a little shocking to me that at Hampshire College, they still apparently buy into the gender binary. So we've got these signs. These were the bathroom signs: self-identified women and self-identified men. And on that little plaque underneath, it says, Hampshire College expects that all members of our community will let people self-identify their genders and their gender pronouns they use to describe themselves. Isn't that nice? There was also this lovely mural on one of the main academic buildings the conference was held in. Students had written things in the roots above the tree or in the roots of the tree, and I've shown you a few close-ups. So there's this really large mural on one of the buildings. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. And here's some of the close-ups of some of the things people said. So we got a good old disrupt whiteness. For those of you who are new to the channel, pop quiz for the chat. What does whiteness mean? Is whiteness about your skin color, or is it whiteness about something else? When you hear a socialist or someone on the left say disrupt whiteness, what are they telling you to disrupt? Let's see if my regulars have been paying attention. It's not about whiteness. It's about capitalism, 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 capitalism. If it is news to you that whiteness means capitalism, the reason we say this is because we watch Socialism Saturday every single week on my channel. And when you watch Socialism Saturday, you learn that they use the terms whiteness and capitalism interchangeably. So anyone who tells you that whiteness is about skin color, they don't know what they're talking about. Whiteness is about who owns the power structure, who is the boss, who is the bourgeois, who is the landlord, who is the property owner. Because ultimately what these people want to do is abolish all private property. They want the dictatorship of the proletariat. They want the workers to rise up. So they call it whiteness because they play with language to confuse you. And they want us fighting each other rather than understanding what they're doing. But that's what it means. Whiteness means capitalism. Anytime you see whiteness, white supremacy, or racist, or any of these things, you have to think capitalism. We've also got your silence is violence. We've got lots of stuff about black femmes and knowing and all this stuff. Stay angry. This is indigenous land. You can see that there. I'll scroll up a little bit. Well, no, it's not. No. Because you can be considered white and not have white skin. So we don't play this game on my channel. Whiteness has nothing to do with your skin color. You can be black as night and be considered white under this ideology. Ask Larry Elder, because they said that Larry Elder was the new black face of white supremacy in the Los Angeles Times. Larry Elder is very black. So what types of things do they present at a socialist reproductive justice conference? In the rest of this article, I will show you the presentation schedule and the descriptions. I will detail the content of the presentations in a separate article. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through and just talk to you about some of the session titles. I am not going to give you my session notes yet because I want to do that in a separate article because I took a lot of notes. And I'm trying to break down all of this information to make it really digestible for everyone. So I'm giving you a little bit at a time. If I put my session notes in with this, it would be completely overwhelming, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to break down the session notes separately. But what I am going to do is I'm going to read you the presentation titles and show you some of the people who were presenting at this conference. So the first opening panel, and this was a panel of like 4 people, and everyone at the conference attended this panel. It was on at the same time as breakfast. It's called Synopsis of Oppression and Strategies for Change. Using an intersectional reproductive lens, the people on the panel will identify some of the through lines of the recent anti-trans and anti-abortion attacks and share how we can foster hope, build resilience, and solidarity at this political moment. How can we lift up trans and BIPOC liberation and see beyond the threats of opposition now? So anytime you hear the words liberation or abolish, you're almost always dealing with socialists. Okay? Now, I will say one of the things that was ironic about this main kind of conference breakfast panel, they spent more time talking about trans people than they did about abortion. They spent most of this panel talking about trans people. This was supposed to be a reproductive justice conference. Why are they spending all their time on trans people? Moving on, And I'm going to have more to come about that. This is Heron. This is my new socialist bestie. She was on the panel. No, sorry, I really don't mean to screw up the pronouns. It really is an accident. So this is Heron. We're going to talk about Heron some more in a sec. I basically put some tweets along with the presentation, so you can kind of get a sense of who these people are. Next, we move into our breakout sessions, and there were a lot of breakout sessions. All right. So I'm just going to read you some titles and talk about the content. So Healing Justice 101. What would happen to our world if we understood that healing was deeply connected to the dismantling of racism, transphobia, misogynoir? Do you guys know what misogynoir is? Let me know in the chat if you know what misogynoir is. That's a new term that I learned this weekend. Ableism, white supremacy, and capitalism. Why are they mentioning capitalism in a conference about reproductive justice and abortion? One of the things you learn when you watch the woke left from start to finish, which we do on Happy Hours on Friday and on Socialism Saturday, is that in every single presentation these people do, they are denouncing capitalism, because whiteness is not about skin color. It is only about capitalism. And these are Marxists that want a Marxist revolution. The 4 goals of the woke left are always and forever: gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in a Marxist utopia. Everything they do is designed to achieve one or more of those goals. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in a Marxist utopia. I promise you, if you memorize those 4 points and you look for them in every single thing that the woke left does, you will see exactly how it's showing up. Misogynoir, you guys are right. It's about misogyny against Black women. It's about specifically targeting Black women. Exactly. Healing Justice is a framework that aims to intervene and respond to generational trauma and systematic oppression to build community and survivor-led responses rooted in Southern traditions of resiliency. Then these people are obsessed with eugenics. There were at least 2 sessions on eugenics. These people honestly believe that there is a concerted effort to kill off all Black and brown and trans people. I have never heard so much talk about eugenics. I've been hanging out with the right for a while, kind of like observing them. The right never talks about this stuff. You know who talks about eugenics? The far left. So there was a workshop called Population Control and Eugenics 101. This 101 level workshop is an introduction to eugenics and population control. Eugenics is a popular scientific theory from the early 1900s. It is the biased belief that selective human breeding will produce white, able-bodied people that are superior to others. It is related to population control. Population control refers to when people in positions of power force or persuade others to get sterilized, use contraceptives, or have children. Both eugenics and population control undercut reproductive and disability justice. They show up today in reproductive abuses and campaigns to reduce population growth to save the planet. Now, here's why this concerns me. Who here knows what the ironclad law of woke projection is? Anyone in the chat? And while you guys are answering, I'm just going to take a quick look over at Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble. Who knows what the ironclad law of woke projection is? This is why this concerns me. The right doesn't talk like this. The right doesn't talk about this subject at all. Sam with the gold star. Accuse your enemies of what you yourself are doing. Why is the far left talking so much about eugenics, do you think, when there's no real threat of this from the right? Could it be that they might be projecting? I don't know that for sure. That's just a hunch. But I don't know why they're talking about this so much. And it's really, quite frankly, disturbing. All right. Another session was grounding racial justice strategies in history of resistance. Communities have always gendered and reproductive oppressions that shaped the U.S. Past resistance has paved the way for today's racial justice movement. Opposition 101, a how-to and case study. This is one of the ones I went to. This was taught by our friend Heron, who we're going to be talking about in a second. Who the heck are all these anti-transgender doctors who keep testifying against gender-affirming care? Who are the opposition and how are they organized? Come find out how to answer these questions and learn more about the tactics being used by the far right to restrict bodily autonomy in the United States. So what they're trying to do, they are trying very hard to connect abortion and trans. And they're saying it's all under the realm of bodily autonomy. Let's just keep that in mind. Next up, uncovering belonging in the mess of queer of color critique. Queer of color critique is a form of resistance born out of the inevitable mess that accompanies the QPOC narrative. I've never heard the term QPOC before this, which rejects the necessity of general belonging. Queer of color critique establishes a new sense of general belonging in safe spaces created for QPOC by QPOC, which continues to move and progress outside the traditional ideals of home. What this comes from is queer Marxism. If you have not yet been introduced to queer Marxism, I have done at least 2 episodes about it on Socialism Saturday. You can go find those episodes on the channel. Just search for queer Marxism on the channel. I promise you they'll come right up. Queer Marxism this is where the real next level insanity is. I'm sure we'll be doing many future episodes of queer Marxism, but essentially here is the too long didn't read. They want to eliminate the gender binary. They want to eliminate both men and women. They want everyone to be non-binary. Trans no longer means transition. It means transform. Okay? That's the language they're using. It doesn't mean transition from one to the other. It means transform into something new. That's what that comes from. Current legal issues and cases confronting the movement. This is just a legal thing. That's not as interesting as it could be. Let's keep going. Sharing. This is one of the shout your abortion things. I told you, this is one of the abortion storyteller things. Sharing our abortion stories with the world. A closed space. Only we know how our experiences and abortion stories have shaped our lives. This storytelling workshop will help people who have had abortions understand the why behind abortion storytelling, prepare for media interviews, and can serve as a refresher for those who've already been sharing their abortion stories publicly. This is the first step in joining a community of support comprised entirely of people who have had abortions. Our stories are meaningful, impactful, and a gift for other people who have had and will have abortions in the future. If you had an abortion, we are delighted to have you join us for this training. If you have not had an abortion, we ask that you do not attend this workshop. We love you, and our goal is to create a supportive training space solely for people who have had abortions. What they're doing is they want people who have had abortions to go out into the world and say, abortion is great. Abortion is awesome. Here are all the reasons abortion is great. It wasn't uncomfortable at all. It was absolutely the right decision. God bless abortion. Thank God for abortion. That's what they want people to be doing. They are actually doing concerted efforts to train people how to do this at conferences. I really want people to think about that for a second. That wasn't the only one like this. We're going to run into another one. Building the Fire Fund, a fund to support Indigenous reproductive sovereignty. This workshop will tell the story of an organizing effort that has been ongoing for almost 2 years to build a national platform for Indigenous reproductive justice. Racial justice beyond population control. There comes the eugenics thing again. Why do they keep talking about this? What could a collective movement reckoning with population control look like? How could it strengthen reproductive justice? Oh, not racial justice. I keep thinking RJ is racial justice, reproductive justice. I keep like assuming it's always about race. Reproductive justice. It was a reproductive justice conference. My bad. Join us for shared consideration of those questions. We will jumpstart the conversation with suggested steps to uproot population control in today's reproductive justice and funding and programming. We compare dominant approaches that paint population and fertility as a problem to be solved to transformative feminist approaches, which emphasize Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, feminist perspective. Here's the other abortion story one. We testify. Abort versation are abortion stories, also a closed space. This workshop seeks to give a private space so that you can explore how similar and different their experiences are from one another and speak openly about internal and external abortion stigma and other oppressions they face within their community and from the reproductive health, rights, and justice movements. Goals include participants gaining tools to process their own abortions, handle stigma from family, friends, and coworkers, and feel connected to other people who've had abortions. And this is the woman that inspired the title of the article. Kenya Martin, she, her, is a reproductive justice activist, mama, Black feminist, and program manager with We Testify, and an abortion storyteller for the last 6 years. They have multiple organizations that are specifically designed to teach women who have had abortions how to talk about their abortion in a positive way with the general public. What is the right doing to counter that? And again, I say this as someone who's pro-choice. Why doesn't the right do stuff like this? Why don't pro-life organizations take someone like a Kathy Barnett, who is awesome? Kathy Barnett ran for Senate in Pennsylvania in the midterms, and she lost. But Kathy Barnett had this one ad that was so amazing. It was all about how Kathy's mother became pregnant with Kathy because of a rape when her mother was like 10, and she still decided to have Kathy. And it was a beautiful ad. It really was. It was one of the most powerful anti-abortion messages that I have ever seen, and I say that as someone who is pro-choice. That tugged my heartstrings. And I've met Kathy. Kathy's running around New Hampshire with Vivek Ramaswamy right now. I've chatted with her several times. She's a wonderful lady. And I'm wondering, why isn't the right taking someone like Kathy Barnett? By the way, they basically ostracized Kathy Barnett. Why aren't they taking her and saying, Kathy, teach people how to tell the story like you did? Because the left is doing that. And that's why they're winning, guys. That's why they're winning, because they are focusing effort on it. They are creating organizations around this strategy. They're teaching people how to do it at their conferences. This doesn't happen at CPAC. I've been to CPAC twice. This doesn't happen at CPAC. Not in this way. And that's why the GOP is losing. Disability Dobbs and the Black Perspective. This workshop will allow participants to explore the intersections of disability, racial justice, and queer trans liberation, ding, 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 movements, and how reproductive justice movements can better integrate a disability justice and pro-Black analysis in the work. Anti-supremacist training. This is another one that I went to. This was done by the head of the Institute for Research into Male Supremacy, which we're going to be watching for Happy Hour this week on Fridays. I've got a great presentation picked out for Happy Hour. You guys are going to love it. And I went to this live. Anti-Supremacist Training, Understanding and Countering Supremacist Playbooks. This workshop will examine playbooks used and reused by supremacist movements, including white supremacists and male supremacists, to attack bodily autonomy and gender expression. These groups use the same tactics again and again to restrict abortion rights, undermine transgender humanity, limit sexuality education, and ban drag and queer performance. Join us for a session to obtain this knowledge of our opposition and develop innovative community joy building and long-term strategies to combat supremacist and authoritarian culture and structures. Let me tell you this. The woman who presented this has no effing idea what she's talking about. The woman who presented this legitimately got her PhD from Yale studying right-wing structures, and she has no effing idea what she's talking about. This was one of those presentations where I was really glad I was wearing a mask because oh shit, hang on. Facebook just lost my connection for some reason. That's all right. Anyway, we'll fix that later. This is one of those presentations where I was really glad I was wearing a mask because this woman said so much insane stuff that has no basis in reality on the political right at all that I was dying. I was like, nope, wrong, not right, nope. And again, I say this, I'm not a conservative. I'm not on the right, but I've spent enough time with them hinged into reality that I understand how they work. This woman doesn't know what she's talking about. You guys are going to have a great time when we get to this. You guys are going to be shocked at what this woman thinks about the right. It's total derangement syndrome. There she is. Alex. Dr. Alex, PhD from Yale, doesn't know what she's talking about. Here's a fun one to go along with the self-managed abortion tour. Self-managed abortion with reproductive justice lens. Self-managed abortion is a way to decolonize and demedicalize abortion care in our communities, taking back our community's cultural practices and knowledge of our bodies. Come learn why BIWOC and non-binary people are more likely to self-manage an abortion, how new efforts to criminalize abortion target our communities, and ways to safely share information about self-managed abortion in the community. Join Abortion on Your Own Terms for a look at self-managed abortion. Now, you know what's funny about this? So this is the woman that gave me the self-managed abortion tour. I found her Twitter account. Look what she tweeted. Isn't that nice? The woman who gave me the self-managed abortion tour that we talked about yesterday tweeted out a picture of a cake that says, "Fuck you, we will always have abortions." Doesn't, just perfectly lovely, perfectly lovely. WTF is BIWOC. Black, Indigenous, Women of Color. I'm kind of shocked they put the W, to be honest. Like, they really should have done people. But that's what that means. Your map is my map with Black feminist futures. The same fascist policies and ideology that oppress transgender people are responsible for abortion bans. I told you they're trying to integrate abortion and trans issues and make it into a bodily autonomy thing. Our map to liberation, ding, 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 is shared and our struggle is interconnected. In this workshop, Black Feminist Futures Yummy will present a mapping project in collaboration with the Transgender Strategy Center of the shared political landscape that repro justice and gender justice share. Black body culture, a discussion on body image. This actually, I didn't really mind this one. This was a discussion about like loving your body and stuff like that. Okay, fine, like whatever. I actually don't have a problem with this one at all. You got to acknowledge when they do things right, okay? A broken clock is right twice a day. We give credit where credit is due, even if we don't like them and think most of their ideas are crazy. Reproductive Justice 101. Reproductive justice is the foundational framework to understanding the intersections of systemic oppression and the rights to bodily autonomy. In this workshop, we will share the definition and history of the reproductive justice movement, how this framework is distinguished from reproductive health and reproductive rights, and the intersecting systems of oppression that must be dismantled to fully realize our collective vision. Interesting word choice there, isn't that? Collective. Almost like they're saying collective versus individual because they see themselves as a collective. Do you know who else sees themselves as a collective? Marxists. RJing abortion. The facilitators will introduce the process of viewing the history and politics of abortion through the reproductive justice lens. In their book, A Work in Progress, with the co-author Loretta Ross, who there was a student at this event who was a TA for Loretta Ross. Apparently, she teaches at Smith College. They call this RJing abortion and explain how this more expansive approach guides political analysis and action. And then our closing keynote, and I have to be honest, the closing keynote was really disappointing to me because the closing keynote was a giant mess of word salad. This woman said nothing. I really mean that. I have very few notes for the closing keynote because this woman was basically like, yeah, power and ableism and anti-blackness and collective and we need to work together and power and ableism. She said the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and it had no content at all. It was just word salad. But here's the description. Black queer feminist, cultural and memory worker, curator, and organizer Kara Page will close out the Collective Power 2023 by speaking to this political moment and grounding us in the healing justice lineage. She will set the tone for the future of centering BIPOC and trans liberation, ding, 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 and addressing how we can cultivate resistance, resiliency, and respond to generational trauma and build collective power for the future. And you know what's funny about that is here's Kara Page on Good Morning America with Patrisse Cullors. Who is Patrisse Cullors? Does anyone remember who Patrisse is? Does anyone remember? The closing keynote for the Collective Power Conference was on Good Morning America with Black Lives Matter co-founder and trained Marxist Patrisse Cullors. Remember how they all did that video about how they were trained Marxists? Yep, just saying. Matt M., thank you for the super chat. I sometimes wonder if the left has been infiltrated to make them look crazy. Then I meet leftists and realize they really are. No, they really are crazy. They really are. In real life. Not everyone on the left is crazy. But we're talking right now, what we focus on is the farthest of the far left. Okay? These are socialists. These are not moderate Democrats. These people hate moderate Democrats. They hate them. They talk about how much they hate them all the time. And so I really want people to understand these are not just your normal kind of like centrist, like, you know, suburban mom that has the job outside the house that, you know, takes the kids to soccer. That's not what this is. This is the farthest of the far left. These are the extremists. This is the minority. But sadly, these people control the talking points of the Democratic Party. Everything these people say, and this is why we actually started watching Socialism Saturday to begin with, everything these people say 2, 3, 4, 5 years later ends up in the key talking points of the Democratic Party. And so when you watch Socialists and you come to Socialism Saturday on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, what you're going to hear is lunacy that in a couple years from now is going to show up on CNN. This is where defund the police came from. This is where the riots of 2020 were birthed from, except they were talking about it years before in the open on YouTube in interviews, and then a couple years later, it becomes the main talking points of the Democratic Party. That is why it's important to pay attention to this, because it might seem like it's like, it's entertaining. It is entertaining, don't get me wrong. But we're doing it for a reason, because we're looking into the crystal ball and we're seeing the future and we're seeing where it's going. And I promise you, if people don't start stepping up and fighting back, everything you're hearing about this socialism conference is going to become mainstream, and it's going to happen within a couple of years. It's not even going to be that long of a time. A couple of years. Fun times. And after that, we ate crackers and cheese and had mocktails, and I hauled ass out of there, man. As soon as that last keynote was done, I hauled ass to my car. I was like, I gotta get out of here before they realize who I am and they kidnap me and hold me for ransom or something. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, was the second part of my multi-part series about my day with the socialists. That is the Abortion Storytellers. The series is going to continue, hopefully tomorrow. Tomorrow, I am planning on releasing let's see if I have it right here at the ready. Let's see. Hang on. Oh, no. Oh, found it. Wait, no, didn't. Okay, never mind. All of my papers just fell on the floor, but I promise I have it. I have a 4-page list of all of the trans books that they're recommending for elementary schoolers. So if you want a list of every single trans and non-binary book that you just want to keep an eye out for, maybe like, in your kid's bag or at the library, things like that. And I say that I don't approve of book banning. I don't like the book banning stuff. I'm just saying, like, if you want to keep an eye out for stuff, I will tell you the exact titles of the books that you need to keep an eye out for. I will give you the entire list. And I was given this by an organization in Western Massachusetts that starts working with trans and non-binary children at 2 years old. Whole list. All the books for kids, all the books for young adults, all the books for educators. I've got it. And we're going to be releasing that on the Substack, carlin.substack.com. So please make sure you're subscribed. And if you want to support the work I'm doing, again, $5 a month, $50 a year, you guys keep me in business. And I am looking to go to another socialism conference in a couple of months, and every little bit helps. And so when you guys fund my work, I not only give you weekly updates about what I'm doing and how I'm spending my time, but you are going to contribute to me bringing you more information about the far, far left, which I love doing. I love digging into deep dystopia, and it is hard to look at sometimes, but I think it's important. And I try to provide a nuanced perspective that is not outrage culture. I do not believe in outrage porn. I believe in nuance and context and giving you guys the full set of information so that you can decide for yourselves what to do with it. I'm not making any decisions for you. I'm not going to rile you up. In fact, I want everyone to be as calm as possible. Outrage culture is not helpful. Outrage culture is not going to allow us to win. And I know that there have been times in the past when I've been pissed off. You can go back and watch some of my videos. I've cried on the internet. I've shouted on the internet. I've called names on the internet. I've done all manner of things. I have gotten into outrage culture from time to time. But what I've learned on my journey is that it is not healthy, nor is it productive to engage in outrage. And so we're keeping it as calm as possible so that we can look at things with a clear head and we can make the best decisions for ourselves moving forward. And Quick Wait says, great show. Now we're not done yet. I got a couple other stories. Stick with me. Jen says, they're like the militant wing of the Salvation Army from the first Austin Powers movie. I never saw the first. I don't like Austin Powers. I don't like that type of comedy. But I appreciate you, Jen. Thank you. Robert says, this is a lot to digest. I know. Listen, if you're new to this and you're feeling overwhelmed, it's not you. It's normal. All right. This is a lot. Again, my regular viewers have been doing this with me for 7 months. So we're more used to it. But if this is your first time getting exposed to this type of content, I can absolutely understand why you might feel overwhelmed, but just stick with it and it's going to become more clear. And I promise. Okay, yes, false ending. We're not done yet. We're not done yet because I want to introduce you guys to Heron. Heron is my new best socialist friend. Heron was one of the main presenters at the Socialist conference. I also attended Heron's workshop. And now Heron has said some very not nice things about me on Twitter. And I felt the need to respond to them and write Heron a little open letter that I thought we would all read together. Do you guys want to meet my new friend Heron and read the open letter with me? Yes, I'm always making friends. I make friends wherever I go. I am a beacon of light, as you all know. A beacon of light in a dark, dark world. Let's read. Meet Heron Greenesmith. Pronouns, they, them. Oh, I did Heron a disservice. I misspelled their name. That has an extra E in it. I promise I'll fix it, Heron. I'll fix the typo, just not right now. Heron was featured at the opening panel at this week's Collective Power Conference and also led a breakout session I attended about opposition research. I wasn't originally going to attend it, but Heron said so many insane things in the opening keynote that I couldn't pass up the opportunity. In the middle of one of the breakout sessions, utilizing my newly honed opposition research techniques, I discovered that Heron had blocked me on Twitter from both my Dr. Carlin B account and my actively Unwoke account. And I have to give Heron props for this, man. Most people who block me on Twitter only block me from the Dr. Carlin B account. They don't block me from the actively Unwoke account. But Heron blocked me on both, which means that Heron actually made the proactive effort to block me, which means that Heron knew who I was. And I sat right in front of Heron, looking right in their eyes for 90 full minutes on Saturday. I even joked with Heron. We shared a laugh here and there. We bonded over a shared hatred of Matt Walsh. Heron had no idea who I was. I just thought that was hilarious. I really did. Now, of course, you can always get around a Twitter block, so I wasn't really concerned about that. As crazy as some of Heron's ideas are, and we'll get into those in a future article, I actually think that Heron was a wonderful teacher and an extremely smart individual. True. They're deranged when it comes to the political right, and they don't understand the culture or the people as well as they think they do, but that doesn't mean they're not smart. Smart people can be stupid too, guys. It means they're engaging in confirmation bias and only seeing what they want to see rather than as things really are. You know what's funny, Jason? I was actually thinking about this. Jason is asking, will the next conference be unmasked to smoke out the spies? I was actually thinking about this. I was like, as a result of my infiltrating their conference, they're going to demand that people don't wear masks at the next one. The masks help me to infiltrate it. They're going to have a lot more infiltrators if they keep these mask rules. It's just good policy, man. But wouldn't that be funny if they forbid people from wearing masks from future conferences? I think that would be hilarious. I was actually impressed that Heron told people clearly not to use the information they were learning to dox people. They did. Heron said flat out, don't dox people. Use this information ethically. I was like, great. That's actually really good. I'm glad that Heron is teaching that. They emphasize using it ethically. That's good. It's as it should be. So given that Heron emphasized ethical use of information, I was a bit surprised to discover that they posted a Twitter thread about me today with an abundance of inaccuracies. So I thought I'd write Heron an open letter. I can't DM them on Twitter after all, to clear a few things up. Here's the thread that Heron wrote about me and my open letter below. So Heron posted some screenshots. There I am in a mask. And Heron Greenesmith, Esquire, because Heron is a lawyer, professor, BU Law School, It looks as though an anti-abortion activist came to the Collective Power Conference at Hampshire College this weekend claiming to see what we say when they're not listening. The good news is we say the same things whether or not they're listening. I was there this weekend. This person attended my workshop on opposition monitoring, I think. If she did, I mean, Heron's assuming my pronouns there, but, we'll set that aside for a moment. If she did, and writes a thread about it, it'll be interesting to see how she characterizes my message. The opposition monitoring is morally neutral and can be used to increase bodily autonomy or curtail it. Kind of hilarious if she did attend my workshop, The Opposition Monitoring, a very 101 workshop on how to monitor the opposition. It was a very 101 workshop, but I did learn a thing or two. I really did. I'll confess now, to get ahead of the scandal. While I don't condone doxing, I did make a joke about pooping on someone's doorstep. Now, the funny part about that is, I didn't even remember that Heron made that joke. They did make the joke, I remember it now, but I wasn't going to write about it. Yes, Heron, are you watching right now, Heron? Go ahead and chat, and if you're watching right now, everyone wave. Hi, Heron. Hi. Hi. I would still be best friends, Heron. I also called anti-trans advocates fuckwads from the main stage. Yes, they did. Never a dull moment around us trans, socialists, abortionists. Well, I'm glad that Heron is admitting that Heron is a socialist. I mean, that's progress. I'm not so much worried about what she's going to say about me. I'm old, and I have institutional support. I'm worried about the young people whom she might have talked to and photographed. This is a college students' conference, small, radical, and intimate, and powerful. So Heron had some feelings there. And I thought I would write Heron a nice open letter and respond to those feelings. Dear Heron, hi, I'm Carlin. I was sitting directly in front of you for 90 minutes the other day, and we shared a few laughs, but we haven't officially met. I'm a pro-choice libertarian who believes that adults should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies, including trans people, that all drugs should be legalized, that doesn't give a flip about Drag Queen Story Hour, and that as a rape victim myself, I believe all women should have the right to choose. I believe you should be able to exist and live your life however you want, as long as you aren't forcing me to do something I don't want to. In return, I promise I won't force you to do anything. Fair? I even respect people's pronouns, even though I make mistakes sometimes because you guys are screwing up grammar. But I do try my best. Everyone deserves basic respect and courtesy of being referred to how they want to be. And I'm deadly serious about that, guys. If you comment on my channel and say, you have to say he for Dylan Mulvaney, I'm going to block you. I respect pronouns because I believe that everyone deserves basic respect and courtesy to be referred to how they want to be referred to. If you want to use whatever words you want, that is your business, but you will not compel me through social pressure to say words that I don't want to say. All right? I say this because your Twitter thread about me incorrectly assumed that I'm anti-abortion. It got some other stuff wrong too, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm not anti-abortion. I'm pro-choice. I just have this crazy idea that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. I think I heard that somewhere once from some feminist. Do you remember who said that? We probably disagree on that point because you guys seem to think that abortion should be freely available up until birth. You have a daughter. You told us that in your session. Actually, upon second thought, I'm not sure if Heron actually said daughter or she said kid. They said kid. Heron might have a baby. I don't remember if there was a specific gender mentioned, but daughter was just what was in my head when I wrote it. So maybe I'll update it, maybe I won't. Heron, you're welcome to correct me. If you have a baby, let me know. I will degender the open letter. Does it seem inhumane to you to abort a baby in the 3rd trimester if it's not medically necessary to do so to preserve the life of the mother? I got my first birth control pills from Planned Parenthood while I was a student at Boston University, where Heron currently teaches in the School of Law. Back in the day, I was always grateful to have them as a resource. I had a metric ton of sex in college and in my 20s, and if I had gotten pregnant, I absolutely would have availed myself of the option to end the pregnancy. And people can have whatever feelings they want about that, but that's the truth. Now, I've never had an abortion. You want to know why? Because, like an adult, I used birth control and condoms to prevent myself from getting pregnant because I didn't want to have a kid. But if there'd been a mistake or an accident or the 3 measures of birth control that I put in place hadn't worked, I probably would have had an abortion if I'd gotten pregnant in my early 20s. Yeah, I absolutely would have. Now, I wouldn't do the same thing today. If I got pregnant today, which I'm not planning on doing because I don't want to have kids, but if an accident happened, I would have the kid. I would view it as an act of God, like whatever. But, my priorities were different in my 20s, and I don't think that abortion is necessarily wrong. Um, I have questions about late-term abortion that is not medically necessary, and I have questions about celebrating abortion and shouting it because I think abortion is a sad thing. I'm not anti-abortion, I'm anti-insanity. And I think an abortion doula and a bastardized spiritual ceremony following a home bathroom abortion is insanity. But truth be told, the abortion stuff wasn't even the stuff that interested me the most about your conference. It's the entire ideology that interests me. So, how did I end up at your specific conference then? Well, frankly, I've been studying you guys for 6 months and I wanted to see it up close and personal, and I wanted to hear what you had to say in your natural habitat. I was a Democrat back when I was at BU, and I never questioned it. I attended anti war rallies in the Boston Common after George W. Bush invaded Iraq. Those stopped after he left office, even though we didn't leave the region. Does anyone always find it like a little weird how anti war rallies just stopped when Barack Obama got into office? I probably voted for Obama twice, and I voted for Hillary in 2016. I really had to plug my nose on that one. Even when I was a Democrat, I did not like Hillary at all. I didn't want to vote for her, but I did. Growing up in Vermont, I also voted for Bernie Sanders in every election in my adult life until I moved to New Hampshire for work. But then something happened to me a few years ago. I realized how much people like you had lied to me my whole life. I realized that most people on the political right are not racist or misogynist or any of that. Most of them are just normal people who want low taxes, hate being censored for their ideas, and just want to be left alone. It's probably not your fault that you've lied to people about the right. You were probably lied to as well by the media, your teachers, etc., and you probably truly believe that you're telling the truth. But I do think it would be helpful if you could look at your political opponent from a more detached perspective. I'm not suggesting the entire political right is perfect. I was telling the truth in your session when I told you that I can't stand conservative Christianity and that Matt Walsh is my mortal enemy. He has done more to hurt the conservative right than almost anyone, and the ones that worship him like a god are quite frankly stupid. And I'm sorry if that hurts anyone's fragile sensibilities, but that's how I feel about it. We even both hate TERFs. I think they're insufferable. We have so much in common, Heron. I don't know why we can't be best friends. The alt-right is a real thing too, and they're bad news. After I was doxxed and terrorized by them for weeks after saying that critical race theory is not anti-white in 2021, I spent a lot of time investigating them. Probably more than you have, Heron. But the reality is that the alt-right has grown substantially in the last few years as a backlash to the absurdity of the progressive and socialist left. You guys made them stronger. You drove more people into it with your own actions, all because you wouldn't listen to people who used to be much more moderate and instead treated them as though they were an invasive species to be stomped out. These elements are real, and the conservative right would do well to clean up their own side of the aisle. But the fact is that most of them are too lazy to do it. This will surprise you, Heron. The conservative right are lazy. That's why I don't associate with conservatives. I find them to be lazy, entitled, and have a learned helplessness from convincing themselves that they are perpetual victims of the evil far left that is really quite off-putting. And I'm sorry if that offends conservatives who are listening right now. I really am. I don't think you're bad people. And I also don't think that this applies to necessarily everyone. But I'm sorry. If you can't admit that there are a lot of people on the conservative right that are absolutely lazy and feckless, I don't know how to help you, man. That's just reality. I don't think conservatives are bad people. I wish they would get off the couch and do more and not make excuses about having to mow their lawn or saying, "We have jobs." The worst excuse in the history of humanity, as though everyone else in the world doesn't have an effing job. I digress. So I'm not a conservative. I hate to disappoint. I'm not with the Family Research Council. I actually hate the Family Research Council or the Heritage Foundation. I'm just a person who thinks that both sides are crazy for different reasons. Murphy's Pool says, Bot has an important poll in locals. All right, well, we'll look at that later, Murphy's Pool. Thank you for the super chat. I wrote all this, Heron, because we're going to be in each other's lives for a few weeks, and maybe if you're really lucky, even longer. We should really get to know each other, the real stuff, not the made up stuff. So let's correct a few things you said. Heron said, "This person attended my workshop on opposition monitoring, I think. If she did and writes a thread about it, it will be interesting to see how she characterizes my message that opposition monitoring is amorally neutral and can be used to increase bodily autonomy or curtail it. Kind of hilarious if she did attend my workshop. The opposition monitoring was a very 101 workshop on how to monitor the opposition. I'll confess now to get ahead of the scandal. While I don't condone doxing, I did make a joke about pooping on someone's doorstep." I was in your session, Heron. Very good. I actually thought it was great, and I even learned a thing or two. But I really struggled not to correct some of the things you said about the political right, because some of the things you said were so wrong. Honestly, Heron, you really need to read my journalism, because I don't like the political right. Well, I mean, I like them just as much as I like the left, whatever. But you would be so much more grounded in reality about what the right is and what they believe if you read my work. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. My plan was to accurately quote you while saying you emphasize the ethical use of tools and flat told your audience not to dox people. I don't even remember the thing about pooping on someone's doorstep, but thank you for sharing that. I don't know why you would assume that I would do anything other than quote you accurately. Almost like you made assumptions without researching that I always come with receipts. Then Heron said, I also called anti-trans advocates fuckwads from the main stage. Never a dull moment around us trans, socialist, abortionists. Well, Heron, you said many more interesting things than that from the main stage, which I will be reporting on in a different piece at a later date. But honestly, I was much more interested that the former president of Hampshire College agreed with you, calling conservatives fuckwads, and in the same breath denounced capitalism. That really happened. The former president of Hampshire College denounced capitalism from the main stage. True story. I'm not so much worried about what she's going to say about me. I'm old and I have institutional support. I'm worried about the young people whom she might have talked to and photographed. This was a college students' conference. Small and radical and intimate and powerful. Heron, this is where you really hurt my feelings. First off, I have no interest in canceling you. That makes no sense. I left the left because I do not support cancel culture. But more importantly, I made a special effort to explicitly follow the conference's rules to not give you guys any reason to kick me out. I sat there, I took notes, didn't bother anyone, didn't even try to record you guys without your permission. The rules asked that you don't take photos of people without permission. So I didn't. You said in your session that you record everyone, regardless of if it's a two-party consent state or not. Maybe you, Heron, wouldn't have followed the rules, but I did. Ethics, after all. Am I right? I would never dox students. I didn't even speak to students. Students are the victims of this ideology. It's not their fault, and my interest isn't in them anyway. It's in people like you that I'm interested. Adults who are spreading lies about people that you have never even bothered to understand. So I'll make you this offer, Heron, and this is a serious offer. I'm not joking around. Come on my channel and have a conversation with me. Do your homework. Try to understand someone with a different perspective. Maybe I can ask you some questions in return. We can be adults. Crazy idea, right? I was with you guys all day, and you never knew I disagreed with you because I'm capable of being around people I disagree with and not hating them. There's no need to be rude. Can you rise to the same challenge for a conversation? Let me know. You can DM me on Twitter. I still haven't blocked you. Sincerely, Carlin. This is a serious offer. If Heron would like to come on my channel and to have a conversation with me, I'm not going to try to convince Heron to give up their crazy ideas. I'm fascinated by Heron's ideas because Heron genuinely is smart. Smart person. Great teacher. Really does know how to teach students. I'm sure is a very engaging law professor. I just, would like to have a conversation with Heron to be able to ask some more in-depth questions about what Heron actually believes, and Heron would be welcome to ask me questions about what I believe. I think it would be great. It would be a demonstration of two adults, a woman and a they, having a conversation and a productive dialogue. Even if we don't agree, we can still leave as friends. We can still talk about how much Matt Walsh sucks. We can bond over things we have in common. I probably agree with Heron on some other things. I don't like the police. I think drugs should be legalized. I have some, very socially liberal ideas. I don't care if people are trans. Doesn't make any difference to me at all. So, Heron, the offer is open. I will clear my schedule. If you want to come on my channel, you are more than welcome to come on my channel and we can have a productive conversation. It'll be great. All right, guys, that is all we have for this one, but I have one more article that I want to read before we conclude for today. Please mount that like button if you would be so kind. I stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We stream on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so a little bit later because it's my weekend too. If you are not subscribed to the channel, I hope you will subscribe today and join me for future streams. And make sure you're subscribed to my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The link is in the description below. Let's shift gears. And honestly, it's actually kind of funny to be talking about this because Heron, in her presentation at the Socialist conference, actually mentioned gays against groomers by name. Now, if Heron had read my reporting on gays against groomers, she would know. They. I really do try to do the pronoun thing. I really do. I just, it is what it is. If Heron had read my reporting on gays against groomers, they would know that gays against groomers is basically crumbling from the inside due to completely inept leadership. And last week, 2 more leaders in gays against groomers left. Let's read. I'm trained as an industrial organizational psychologist. I completed a dissertation about workplace bullying. I'm very good at identifying when something is going wrong in an organization. We have a limited amount of resources in the anti-woke space, and I don't like seeing them wasted. That's why when I've seen warning signs come out of organizations in the space, I've said something. I was the very first person to call out the CEO of FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, back in 2021 when it was not popular to do so. A few weeks ago, he was finally removed from his position after years of toxic behavior. And I happen to know, P.S., that my reporting on FAIR from 2 years ago was used to get him out of that position, which is absolutely, it should have been done 2 years ago, but better late than never, I suppose. But I absolutely know for a fact they used my reporting to get him out. 1 month ago, I did a series of 4 articles about gays against groomers. The first article contained some of the most shocking acts of leadership malfeasance I have ever seen. Gays Against Groomers fired one of their chapter leads based on a QAnon Pizzagate conspiracy. Gays Against Groomers doesn't like trans people. Gays Against Groomers fired one of their volunteers live on Twitter one night at 3 a.m. And you can go back and read the articles if you want the whole story, and I did videos on it as well. It is, I have seen a lot of absurd nonsense in the workplace. I have never seen someone get fired over a QAnon Pizzagate conspiracy. It was crazy. I was only going to do one article about gays against groomers. However, upon publication of the first article, the organization's CEO, Jamie Mitchell, had such a meltdown and went on an unhinged smear campaign against me that I published a second article, a third article, and even a fourth article. In the first article, I said there were going to be more people leaving Gays Against Groomers. Jamie, of course, assured everyone on Twitter that I was a lunatic and I didn't know what I was talking about. Well, I have an update. 2 more people have left. They left within 24 hours of each other. And they weren't just any people. They were 2 of the organization's leaders. Frank Rodriguez, the now former executive director of operations, and Mario Presents, the now former director of chapters. And you can see there, 2 people from the executive leadership team left within 24 hours of each other. And Gays Against Groomers still had them on their website when I wrote this last week. Why is this important? These 2 positions are responsible for Gays Against Groomers' entire ground game. Mario was responsible for coordinating all of their state chapters and affiliates, and Frank was essentially running operations. These are not small losses. These are people who were responsible for all of the activism that the organization is doing. If it's unclear to anyone, Jamie, the organization's most professional CEO, is not doing activism. She's doing merchandise. Because one of the only ways that Gays Against Groomers makes money is by selling merchandise. Jamie spends her time designing merchandise. That's what she does. She's not out coordinating with the chapters. She's not out running activism and doing activism strategy. She's designing merchandise. The 2 people who are coordinating the activism that the organization is doing both quit within 24 hours of each other. And from all internal accounts, I have heard from whistleblowers. They were the only 2 people in the organization that anyone could stand to work with. So who will run activism now? Below are their resignation announcements. Mario's announcement says he's leaving Gays Against Groomers because they won't allow straight people to work with the organization. Frank's announcement says he's leaving to run for office. And you know what? I don't disbelieve that Frank is running for office. However, Gays Against Groomers was a volunteer position. He didn't need to leave it to run for office. He really didn't. So why did he? We're now into double digits for volunteers who have left Gays Against Groomers within weeks. And the most recent ones have left within 24 hours of each other. And when they left, they both retweeted each other's statements. Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't, or excuse me, do you think it's a coincidence? Because I don't think it's a coincidence, but you can judge for yourself. We've got Mario Presents here saying, is with a heavy heart and forward outlook that I regretfully stepped away from Gays Against Groomers last night. I'm not going to go into specific details about my departure, other than I want to focus on my local community who has been suffering because of my national focus. And here's a little bit of Mario's letter where I'm not going to read it, but you're welcome to go to the Substack and read it yourself. Essentially, he says, Gays Against Groomers would not allow straight people to work with us. And I don't know why we're doing that. I don't know why we aren't working with everyone. Why aren't we welcoming anyone in who wants to work with us? Which I think is a really valid point. If you claim to care about ending grooming and ending grooming is your highest priority, then why wouldn't you welcome anyone who wants to end grooming into the organization to help you do that? That just makes no sense at all. And then you can see here, Frank Rodriguez, my mission has become clear. I am now confident in where my abilities are best used. And as the voice that leads this movement, Frank thinks a lot of himself. I must accept that my words shake the world and inspire thousands to become activated. All right, I don't know about that, Frank, but Frank is leaving because he's running for office, and you can read his resignation letter there. So, that is the update from Gays Against Groomers. You can have whatever thoughts you want about the organization, but I think they're going to sell a whole bunch of merchandise to conservatives who think that the organization is doing something while not actually doing a whole heck of a lot. So I will continue to watch the situation. Now, a group that left Gays Against Groomers has actually formed a separate organization called Protectors of Innocence. They are actually working on activism. I'm interested to see what they do with their organization. They're building it up more slowly. I'm sure you're going to start to hear more about them. But, you know, I hate to say it, guys. I really do. But you always need to be skeptical about people starting these organizations because there are so few of them in the anti-woke space that are legitimate. That's just reality. It's one of the reasons I stay independent. I don't want to work with anyone. I want to be beholden to myself, and I want to be beholden to you. I want to be in a position to always tell you the truth about whatever side I'm talking about, and I want to be able to deliver you receipts even when it's inconvenient, and I want you to make up your own mind. So that's all I've got for the show today, guys. Again, please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, carlin.substack.com. If you want to help me out and fund the work I'm doing, you can become a paid subscriber for $5 a month, $50 a year. If you want to help me on another platform, you can head over to activelyunwoke.com/support. There are links in the description below. You can join me on Locals. You can join me on Patreon. You can send me a one-time gift, whatever works best for you. And I do appreciate all the support. I'm just really focusing on my Substack to try to build that up because I think it's just a wonderful platform that allows for more nuanced conversation, and I really appreciate it. As I said earlier, this is not my last stream of the day. This is my first stream of the day, and I will be back in about 2.5 hours for Nothing Remotely Controversial with Joshua. We have a great time. It's psychics and news and tarot cards and tomfoolery and shenanigans. Come and join us at 9:30 tonight, and we will try to predict the future and answer your questions about what's coming up in the world. All right, guys, that's all I've got for tonight. I'll see you at 9:30. If not, I will see you tomorrow sometime. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.